Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Hey there, thanks a lot for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. I know there are many, many podcasts you could choose from, so that you choose us is not a small thing. Thank you. Thanks for the 5-star reviews. Thanks, as always, for your written reviews at Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I want to tell you about my friend in Cincinnati named John Ruhlman. Now, he runs a company called U.S. Medical Plan. And John has been a sponsor of mine and a friend of mine for a long while. And he has gotten calls from this audience, including calls from my own family, calls from colleagues and friends of mine who have shopped with him their current health insurance plan. And he has saved friends and family thousands of dollars, literally. Let me give you for example. I have a friend who bought private health insurance for his family. His daughter had some special health needs that cost him quite a bit of money a month to get premiums covered for all of them. John found him identical coverage and saved him $2,000 a month. That's jaw-dropping money. My parents called John for a supplemental health insurance plan for their Medicare. John saved them $400 a month. Now, every nickel is precious, particularly when you're sitting on an income that you've got to count on for the rest of your days and you're counting your change. $400 is a lot of money. All right, so that's what John can do for you. Or maybe if you have no health insurance at all and you think it's too expensive, I can't afford it right now. He has over 100 different private health insurance companies all over the country that he shops and compares so that he gets you the best rates and never cheats you on coverage, by the way. It doesn't mean it's some scant coverage. Great rates, great coverage. Let John and his team at usmedicalplan.com go to work for you today. You can also call 877-410-4321. 877-410-4321, usmedicalplan.com. Well, good to have you along, folks. Welcome into the midweek edition of the Stigall Show. I know that because it's trash day at Stately Stigall Manor. That's how I keep my schedule these days. Telephone, that's how you know you're a suburban dad. When's trash day? Okay, that's how I can set the rest of the week. Telephone number 855-STIGALL if you want to get in here, 855-784-4255. And we're online anytime, anywhere at chrisstigall.com. Thanks for joining us on any of our hundreds of radio affiliates all over the country. The Salem News Channel, beautiful live shot of Kansas City, Missouri there this morning. Get your Salem News app so you can take us along with you to listen or watch wherever you go. It's free and easy to use. Okay, I brushed across this yesterday, and I'm going to do it again today. I was messaging with a couple of friends of mine who aren't insane and who aren't the smartest guys in the room at all times. You know the type. You probably have friends like this. You see, you may, I don't know what you may think of me. For those of you that are newer to the show and don't know me well, maybe you have opinions of me. That's fine. We'll get to know one another better. Those of you that have been longtime listeners of the show, I think you know me pretty well by now. Here's what I'm not. I am definitely not, nor have I ever claimed to be, the smartest guy in every room. Nor do I feel it incumbent upon me to come off in every conversation like the most reasonable or smartest or, yeah, but did you think about, or have you seen it? That I don't, if somebody is spewing confidently nonsense in a room, for instance, do I feel inclined to jump in and correct them? No. I sit back with a sense of smug satisfaction. Boy, are they a moron, and I know better, but I'm just going to enjoy my beverage or whatever, or my cigar, or I'm going to take in the game. They think they know, I let them have it. Are you that way or not, Fast Eddie? Do you feel the need to correct people and jump in and look like the smartest guy in the room, or do you just let morons blather on, even if they infuriate you, and just let it? I know you're prone to get a little hot-tempered if somebody challenges you directly, but I'm just saying, somebody's saying something blatantly incorrect, but not directly at you, just to the room, and your blood pressure's starting to raise. Do you feel like you want to just jump in and go at it, or do you just let it lie?
I'm so glad you are this way because I am the same way as you. Nope, I love to let it lie and just kind of sit back and enjoy what's happening. And my wife gets mad at me for this. I'm just like, no,
really?
Yes. She's just like, well, you gotta let them know that they were, wrong. I'm like, no, let them sound stupid. Come on.
Oh, now I assumed your wife was one of those that knew you were hot-tempered enough. She would have assumed that you staying quiet would have been the better play. But she actually wants you to engage if you know someone's spewing nonsense or mistruths.
Yes, she does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is something that my wife knows about me well enough now that I just don't engage. But I'll tell you this week, and I kind of alluded to it yesterday, I was on a call with some people on Monday when this whole thing with Tulsi Gabbard releasing the Obama information, the Obama involvement, the intelligence agencies and Obama's involvement in trying to frame Donald Trump in 2016 throughout his first term. And really, it continued through the Hunter Biden laptop and beyond. They were trying to discredit Donald Trump as being some sort of Russian stooge. This has been an ongoing story. Anybody who's been paying attention, it's been happening for years. But I was on a call with some people who voted for Donald Trump, but these are the smartest people in the room. These are people who like to impress you by being reasonable, even though they voted Trump, and even though they don't have a like for Obama and they don't like Obama's policies, they want to be reasonable. And I'm starting to hear from more of you people who want to be reasonable now. Let's be reasonable. Let's be thoughtful about this. Let's not get lost in Obama. If I hear one more person tell me that we ought to be reasonable and just disregard Barack Obama's role in any of this because, well, he's a former president and presidential immunity, and let's not waste time. There are so many other people. Look, I'm not Barack Obama's defense attorney. I don't know every letter of every law. I don't know what presidential immunity means after a president is out of office and he continues to conspire with other people to frame a sitting president. I don't know. I don't know. All I do know is after this president that got 77 million votes despite being nearly murdered twice, despite being dragged through multiple courts of law under false pretenses, despite his home being raided, the perpetual lawfare, the two impeachments, the framing of being a Russian asset, you're now asking me, let's be smart. Let's not lose our heads here. I think it's a waste of time to go after Obama. That's what the smart set keeps telling me, Fast Eddie. It's a waste of time. Let's stop talking about Obama. That's distasteful. He's a former president, after all. I was starting to hear that from a good number of smart set types, and I know exactly what they're doing. They want to keep credibility in the room, particularly with their Beltway, Cologne and Cufflink, Wood, Floor and Fern, NPR listening Republican set, the type that say, well, I'm a fiscal conservative, but I really don't get involved in the social issues. We still have those Republicans. Those are the same people that say, let's not talk about Barack Obama. He's a former president after all, and sitting presidents have immunity. Thurston and Lovey Howell. I'm sorry, I have a distaste for these people after all that we've been through. You know what I'm saying? I have a distaste for people that say, let's not discuss Obama and Biden and Hillary Clinton. Let's not discuss them, even though they have weaponized this government against you and me in meaningful ways, including up to and including nearly costing us our jobs if we didn't take a shot they wanted us to take. I'm not feeling charitable to the former power center. Fast Eddie, you know what I'm saying?
No. I mean, yes, I know what you're saying.
My blood pressure is starting to rise. I don't want smart people telling me, let's be smart about this. I mean, we can talk about Comey and Clapper and Brennan, but let's not talk about Obama. What do you say to people that say, let's not discuss Obama, presidential immunity and all? What do you say?
Chris, it goes back to the IRS targeting of conservatives, all right? That's step one. He used the federal government against us. Unbelievable. Then we get to this Russian collusion hoax that almost derailed an entire election. We're talking, and then now we know that Biden wasn't even in charge. So the people around Obama and Obama were in charge, and yes, they almost forced us to take a shot to keep our jobs, to keep our income. No, I'm not charitable. No, they haven't been.
So this is where my blood pressure starts to rise, and for the first time in a while, I feel inclined to pipe up in mixed company. Now, on Monday, I was on a call where this started. And instead of getting angry, I just said, I've got to run, pretty busy, bye now, hung up, and then privately stewed. By last night, I started getting notes from people telling me that other show hosts are saying it's a waste of time to talk about Obama. And because other show hosts, naturally, here's another thing you need to know about me. Don't reach out to me and tell me what another host's opinion is and why I ought to adopt that opinion. I don't care, not even a little bit, what another host's opinion is. God bless them, they're entitled to whatever opinion they want. But if there are hosts out there in the conservative space telling you we really ought not be discussing Obama because presidential immunity, you can save that for that show. I'm not interested in it. That's not where I am. Now, do I think we're going to frog march Barack Obama off to prison or something? I don't. Do I think they're even going to successfully drag Obama to Capitol Hill to testify? No, I don't. But don't ask me to lay off him. Don't ask me because it's just the decent, smart thing to do to not discuss Barack Obama. Screw that noise. I don't want to hear it. Barack Obama was the ringleader of this national deception, this national fraud. He was the ringleader, no doubt about it. So you tell me there's no legal recourse? Okay, I'm not here to debate that with you because I'm not in DOJ. I'm not an attorney. I don't know. But don't ask me to stop talking about it. Don't waste your time, people say. Do you believe that somebody would tell me not to waste my time with talking about the ringleader, the most divisive president we have had in maybe ever?
2 minutes.
Give me number 3026 here. Here's President Trump yesterday talking about the one, His Holiness, Barack Obama.
They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. When we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about.
Okay. Yeah, and Tulsi says she's got more to come, incidentally. But that's President Trump yesterday. What Obama did, he says, is criminal, and he's not going to let it go. And I have to say, I said this yesterday on X, if I'm Donald Trump, how in the world he's managed to achieve 6 months of gains and achievements that he has, how he's doing trade deals and traveling around the world and striking conversations with the Middle East, the amazing accomplishments Donald Trump has had in 6 months, and not discuss this. That's why I could never be president of the United States. You try to kill me twice and raid my home and drag me through court and frame me as a Russian asset, and then I win. I'm doing nothing but wanting to settle scores and get even. He's going to work every day. We're just now talking about settling scores. This is the Stigall Show. Now, does this hit you where you live, Fast Eddie? The Ozzy Osbourne death? Are you a big fan? Fast Eddie wants all Ozzy all morning, and I know Iceman Alex Stark is cranking the bump music, if you're listening on the radio, all over the country on Great Salem radio stations. You may not be able to hear it on our Salem News Channel broadcast, but thanks for watching if you are. Get the app so you can take us along. Big fan, were you, Ed?
I was. Yes, I was. Yep.
You were. So They say he is, from my understanding, now it was not my genre of music. I have nothing to say about it one way or the other, but I am told he is the king of what is effectively kind of the metal era of rock. He is kind of the undisputed king of that genre of music. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. Black Sabbath was playing some heavy stuff for, I would say, what was popular at the time when they came out, more like the bubblegum type music. They came out hitting pretty hard back then.
I will tell you, while I didn't know much about his music, I mean, I'm familiar with a couple of his tunes. I will tell you that I remember in the early 2000s when the reality show, was that on E, the Osbournes? I think the E Entertainment Network launched I think they were like the first reality show, if memory serves, like even before Survivor. Am I right about that?
It may have been
early.
Like MTV or VH1, it may have been.
MTV, maybe.
Something
You're
like
right.
That. Yeah.
Well, no, The Real World was maybe the very first, what they consider in-house cameras on people 24/7 reality show. But they were they were pioneers in that way. And I will tell you that watching Sharon and Ozzy Osbourne, two people that I didn't know anything about, and he was, even at that time, he had slowed down pretty substantially, given his recreational use of various products over the years, as well as physical ailments. I mean, it's amazing that he lived, 76? I mean, you talk about a body that took some beatings, but he got through one of his last shows. But anyway, that reality show early on, I found that wildly entertaining. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know anything about Sharon Osbourne. I found the two of them hilarious.
It was really fun. I mean, it was quoted for years. It's still quoted to this day.
And I thought it very authentic. Like, I felt like I was really watching a family, warts and all, just kind of acting the way they act with cameras in the house. And I found it very interesting. I just did. I thought they were funny. And I actually came to really kind of respect Sharon Osbourne, who was sort of the business manager of Ozzy's all those years. From what I'm told, she was basically not only kind of the mother figure to him, but she basically ran the whole Ozzy Osbourne empire. And then, of course, she got savaged as one of the ladies over there on CBS, hosting a talk show for a time. And I don't remember exactly why, but she was basically called a racist and run out of the show, wasn't she, Sharon?
Yeah, and I think she got in trouble for the trans thing, too, I think, if memory serves.
That's right.
She had a few moments.
And then Kelly, the daughter, was on The View for like 5 seconds, and she said something about we need Mexicans to clean our rooms. That got her in trouble. So anyway, God bless Ozzy. Rest his soul at age 76. So you heard Donald Trump say yesterday that Obama has been caught directly. And what they did was very criminal. You heard Tulsi Gabbard say, heading into the weekend, she used the word seditious conspiracy. She used the word treason. Julie Kelly made the brilliant point this week that if we can use seditious conspiracy, a Civil War charge against J6ers, grandmothers, for walking into the Capitol, we can certainly use it here. But again, I know that makes smart people in the room very uncomfortable. People that, I don't know, seditious conspiracy is distasteful, Stigall. They talk with their bottom jaw. They go to Cologne and Cufflink, Rubber Chicken, Republican fundraiser dinners and tell you why you're a troglodyte for using words like seditious conspiracy and treason. Very distasteful. My portfolio. Those people I have no time for. And if you're one of those people, this ain't your show. I'm pissed. Righteously angry. Every one of us should be. Because not only was this a betrayal, it was a manipulation, and it was an abuse of authority to maintain power and lord it over you, to abuse you. What these Democrats do with power that they seize through duplicitous means, what they do with that power once they steal it is beat everybody who doesn't agree with them into submission. That's why it's so important to me. That's why cutting the head off the proverbial snake is so critically important. And talking about ancillary players in the story. I heard people say, Chris, if you keep talking about Obama, you're going to let James Comey get away with it, and James Clapper get away with it, and John Brennan get away with it. The snakes inside the FBI are going to get away with it if you keep wasting time on Obama. We can all walk and chew gum at the same time. Again, I don't make decisions at DOJ. Pam Bondi does. Now, could it be at the end of this that I find myself every bit as frustrated as a great many of you are over the Epstein thing? Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to falsely whip anyone up in this audience and say that I am certain Barack Obama has committed treason, and as such he should be tried. And I'm not that guy because I'm not a legal scholar. What I am, though, is a guy who believes the focus, the white-hot, fiery focus of the American public should be on this president who ran as no red states and blue states, just the United States, this great uniter, this historic figure, who ultimately became the most duplicitous divider, and whose tentacles, this toxic political cancer, continued to seep into the marrow of all of our institutions. And he staffed and stacked courts and FBI offices and CIA agents with this Marxist mentality that anybody who doesn't agree with the Democrat Marxist agenda must be defeated, silenced, destroyed, if possible, thrown in jail. And we're not afraid to go back to the Civil War era and drum up seditious conspiracy if we have to. They stopped at nothing. Barack Obama and all his henchmen stopped at nothing to keep control because they knew they couldn't beat Donald Trump fair and square in a straight-up election. Here's Tulsi Gabbard saying today, I believe, this was last night, she says today, in 3030 here, more is coming. Buckle up.
We will be releasing further documents tomorrow that will refute that statement. And I would go back and point to, and we will be pulling a whole host of statements that were made by the Obama administration, by Hillary Clinton, by senior Democrat officials, by their friends in the media that state over and over again after this January 2017 manufactured intelligence document was created that repeat the narrative. And I'm looking at my notes here. New York Times says Russian hackers acted to aid Trump in the election. Obama's CIA Director John Brennan says there is strong consensus among us to support the CIA claim Russian hackers aided Donald Trump's election. Hillary Clinton said, I would be president if not for the Russian hackers supporting Donald Trump. So there is a vast body of evidence and intelligence that debunks and refutes this statement you've just read and others coming from some of the Democrat leaders in Congress today.
Donald Trump has been sounding the alarm about this for some time. You know, you go back to the 2020 debates. Trump says that there was no transition after 2016, that Obama, Hillary, and Biden were engaged in a coup. You go back, you can find him saying it then. This is not new. From Clandestine on X yesterday. This was the reason Axios leaked that unofficial memo. The Democrats went into a frenzy over Epstein and still are trying to go into a frenzy over Epstein because they do not want to talk about this. You will note all of a sudden that CNN and MSNBC want to do nothing but discuss Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, even Barack Obama is trying to convince you that this is nothing to talk about because, after all, Epstein. It's a distraction from Epstein. Former President Barack Obama's office Tuesday issued a rare admonishment. Now, Obama doesn't really talk much these days, and isn't it interesting that he felt the need to take to a statement? They wanted to issuing a rare admonishment of the Trump administration's claims the Obama administration planned a treasonous conspiracy. On Friday, you heard Tulsi Gabbard, what she alleged. Spokesperson for Obama said in a statement, while the office does not normally dignify the consistent nonsense and misinformation flowing out of the White House with a response, the administration's new, bizarre, and ridiculous allegations warranted one. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in 2020 in a report by the Bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee. Okay, let's tackle this because this is also what our side is engaged in. I'm sorry to say we do have a lot of people on our side who have taken the Barack Obama lead here. And they say, listen, the initial assessments were that Russia was trying to interfere in our elections in 2016 and that they favored Donald Trump. There's no dispute about that. That's a bipartisan agreement. The Senate Intelligence Committee said that. Yes, that's true, but on a technicality. And this, stick with me, folks, this is the central point where you're going to try to be confused and rerouted in a discussion. Because I see the left trying to do it, and I'm too smart for it. But for people that, you know, are kind of puddle deep in this, and you get into a conversation about it, and some smart guy comes along and says, you're not actually disputing that Russia tried to impact the election in 2016, are you? Have you heard that guy, Ed? You've heard from that guy, right?
Oh, of course.
You're not actually saying Russia didn't try to impact the election, are you?
Even Republicans found that.
That's right. That's to make you feel stupid. So you get knocked back on your heels and you go, oh, God, I don't know. No, I'm not saying that. I guess I'm not saying that. I guess Russia's up to no good and they wanted Trump to win. So that's to shut you up. But here's the point. The point is they couldn't and didn't do anything meaningful. It was like a $100,000 Facebook campaign. Yes, they tried. Lots of countries try. We try to impact other countries' elections. Barack Obama said himself, in fact, there's a direct quote you can also go look up from Barack Obama, who said that Trump should stop whining. He said this October 18th, 2016 in the Rose Garden. October 18th, 2016 in the Rose Garden. There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow you could even rig America's elections, in part because they are so decentralized and the numbers of votes involved. There's no evidence that has happened in the past or that there are instances in which that will happen this time. That was October 18th, 2016. Look it up for yourself if you don't believe me. Obama dismissed the idea that Russia could hack an election and that Trump should stop whining. And then intelligence came back from Barack Obama's own intelligence agents, and they said, look, sure, they've monkeyed around and they've tried, but they can't try. There is no evidence. After the election was over and Trump won, that's where the game began. Boys, this isn't any good. We got to make a case that Russia did, in fact, build this election in such a way that Donald Trump would win it, that he did rig it. And what happened after that, Barack Obama continued to sort of wink at the idea that, hey, look, our intelligence analysts say Russia tried to impact the election. Mrs. Clinton continued to say, I'd be president were it not for the Russians. Nancy Pelosi, they all said it, and you know it, and there's plenty of instances of it. I could play the reel. We could just play clip after clip after clip in 2017 of people winking at Trump's only president because of Russia, you know. And that became, and then, of course, there was a near 2-year investigation, and everybody knew it was fake. Everybody knew it was false. And so today they're engaged in this revisionist history where they say, hey, our intelligence said back in 2016 Russia was trying. That's all the report said. Russia was trying. I acknowledge Russia was trying. Who disputes Russia was trying? You know Russia was trying. I know Russia was trying. Baloney. This is rewriting history. And I'm not going to let them get away with it, and you shouldn't either. So the next time someone says, you don't actually believe Russia wasn't trying to hack the elections, were you? Everyone knows, everyone agrees Russia was trying to. That's not the point. That is not the debate. The point is, Russia may try, Russia may have interests, there may be fingerprints of Russia monkeying around on some tiny low level. They didn't impact that election in a meaningful way. That was the conclusion, and the Obama administration tried to leave this country with the opposite impression after Trump had been elected. That's the insidiousness of this. Don't get lost with distractions. From the Federalist, top intelligence officials contradicted John Brennan. No intelligence to support the key Russia hoax claim. Top officials working on an intelligence community analysis about Russia's interference in the 2016 election were overruled by CIA Director John Brennan, according to records obtained by the Federalist. The records are related to an ongoing criminal investigation into Brennan and other top intelligence officials for their roles in launching the Russia collusion hoax. Now, I'll stop here and say this is where a lot of people on our side say, well, that's who you should be focused on, Stigall. Stop wasting time with Barack Obama and focus on Brennan. I can do both. I'm happy doing both. We can walk and chew gum. Barack Obama at the behest of John Brennan, or John Brennan at the behest of Barack Obama. I don't care, but neither of them should skate on this just because one was president of the United States. They predicated this entire investigation on Mrs. Clinton's fake dossier. Mrs. Clinton's campaign paid someone, British intelligence, to create fake intelligence reports that Donald Trump was friendly with and colluding with the Russian government to win an election. It was all bogus. And the CIA, the top intel people inside the CIA, came to Brennan before the election and said, there's no there. This is bogus. It's a campaign piece of crap. And Brennan overruled them and said, keep digging anyway, boys. James Comey over at FBI, same deal, securing warrants, FISA warrants, to start surveilling and spying on and entrapping members of Trump's administration and his campaign team. And this investigation continued after Trump's victory. And Barack Obama himself, even after knowing the dossier was phony, Barack Obama himself said that he was committed to a peaceful transition and helping Trump transition and all of this. It was all a pack of lies. And yet, after telling the world that he was there to help make this transition to Trump smooth, why didn't he tell Trump about Mrs. Clinton's fake dossier? If he was really interested in being helpful to Donald Trump, why didn't he say, you know what? Hillary really tried to sandbag you. They cooked up a hell of a fake-looking report on you and Russia. You should know. We had a lot of CIA, FBI people climbing all over the place trying to find Russian dirt on you. Didn't happen. But that's not what he did he? Again, go back to the 2020 debate. Trump says in the debate with the Husk, he said, I didn't get any kind of transition. There was a coup attempt from day one, and there was. And so now, as we go forward, it is so clear, as we're having this discussion today in 2025, the Washington Post, nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election. You see how they're changing it? This is important to understand, and I'm sorry to belabor this. I know this audience is smart. Do you see how we're changing the focus? There's no debate. Russia tried. Russia tried. That's not what we're talking about. You said Trump won the election, and you surveilled and entrapped members of Trump's campaign and his administration and derailed an administration for 2 years and impeached an administration over something completely phony. You made it up. And rather than step forward and say this was all manufactured and made up, and we know it was, and we knew it was before the election, you let it keep happening. And co-conspirators inside Trump's administration that were holdovers from Obama continued to chip away at Donald Trump's administration using completely baseless, phony information. And so today, everybody from NBC News to the Washington Post, the memo has gone out. Let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about, well, Russia tried. They intended. No one disputes Russia tried. No one disputes Russia has interest in creating chaos in our elections. So does China. So do many hostile nations. That's not what's in debate. More in a minute. Back again for Balance of Nature, and in the MAHA movement, one thing we all care about is what's in the container, the ingredients. You flip that thing over, and if you can't pronounce it and you don't recognize it, you put it back. I've seen my kids doing this now. They're very health conscious that way. I like that. And the next generation seems to be more so, and that's why I tell them Balance of Nature, and you can feel good about it too. Balance of Nature is just that. It's nothing more than natural fruit and vegetable, plucked right from the soil. No binders, no additives, no fillers. Harvested ingredients that are freeze-dried into a fine powder, and then they use an advanced vacuum cold process to better preserve the nutritional value in that powder. You can know with confidence that you're talking about 31 ingredients that are strictly fruits and vegetables. Every single day, that's what you get in your Balance of Nature. Imagine a platter with 31 different fruits and vegetables on it. Join me. Take some Balance of Nature and get healthy. Use that discount code CHRIS. 35% off plus free shipping when you do. You got to use the discount code CHRIS, though. All right, so here it is again, the number 800-2468-751. Use the discount code CHRIS or order online, balanceofnature.com. Discount code CHRIS to get that 35% off plus free shipping. Here we are, 2025. Happy New Year. And our friends at Gulag America are back and along for the ride. You know, they have been not only great sponsors, but they have been ride or die founders at the Harump Society. I am so appreciative for our friends at Gulag America. I love the work they do. And we have every reason to be optimistic in this new year. They are, we are, all of us are. America's resurgence, it's back. Trump's back. And Gulag America wants to continue to be your premier source for topical and satirical apparel and other gear designed to help give you voice for your love of liberty and your desire to see America great again. I know we all share that in common. Gulag America does too, but that doesn't mean that the deep state's not going to be busy at work. They're not going to go gently into the good night, as they say. So Gulag America is ready. They want you battle ready. They want you geared up, and they've got hilarious stuff for you to buy, and they're going to give it to you at a deep discount to kick off the new year. You ready for this? You take 15% off all orders at gulagamerica.com when you use my promo code Chris15. So if you go shopping today and you see a shirt you like, and you will because they're hilarious, go to gulagamerica.com, type the promo code Chris15. That's Chris15. Type it in the checkout, and then you'll save big. Enjoy the new year. Enjoy new savings with that same quality, that same hilarious attitude that you've come to expect from our buddies at Gulag America, where they say, it's not our wish, it is our warning. Beautiful look at Blue Mountain, New York this morning on the Salem News Channel. Welcome in if you're listening on great radio stations throughout the Empire State and around the country. So glad you chose us to get your day started. Thank you for catching up on the podcast. By the way, I saw again, we consistently rank up there as one of the top news commentary podcasts each and every day, thanks to your support. So if you ever miss this show or you want to go back and listen to some of it, the podcast is always available. Subscribe to that so you never miss a day, no matter where you are. And thanks for catching us on the Salem News Channel app. That's another great way to listen to this show live or catch up on it. That's a free app to use, too. Download it and begin to enjoy live looks at beautiful shots like Blue Mountain, New York, or listen if you prefer. Our telephone number is 855-STIGAL if you want to get in here. ChrisStigall.com is where the Harumph Society resides. My 3-part series this week on the massive conspiracy that should be understood by every American, and no matter where you are in understanding it. I think Monday I crystallized it in a way that's easy to digest if you're kind of newer to the story or you forget the particulars. I think Monday's completely free edition of the Harumph Society helped. I've got edition 2, phase 2 of it coming out today, and then Friday, phase 3. I do it 3 times a week. Go check it out over there at ChrisStigall.com. And then one last thing while you're over there at ChrisStigall.com, I would call your attention to the graphic at the top of the webpage, Help Texas Flood Victims. These people are in an unbelievable way in Texas still. It is just unthinkable that weeks later we're still talking about trying to find people who were washed away from these extreme floods. And I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who has already joined the campaign. We launched it right after the 4th of July to help these poor people to the best of our ability through the Christian nonprofit Food for the Poor. Our partners there are experts at this. I don't think any organization can react. I mean, maybe save the Red Cross themselves. I don't think there's anybody that's better coordinated and able on a shoestring budget with your support to spring into action to help people in need. Food for the Poor does it. Together with my Salem radio colleagues and their audiences, combined now, we're talking about 4,000 emergency relief kits thus far have been sent to these people who have lost lives and property and are still looking for people at this hour. There is so much more to still be done. Sally Hernandez, the sheriff of Travis County, Texas, says that words fall short when trying to describe the devastation here. These communities are hurting. It has been our goal to serve and protect them to the best of our ability, and we remain committed to that mission. So we're continuing this effort through your donations to help our partners at Food for the Poor reach as many people as they can through this flooded region. A gift of $50 rushes an emergency relief kit to a hurting family displaced by these Texas floods. $100 gets a kit packed with supplies to 2 families. Whatever you can do, whatever you can donate, it makes a powerful impact on men, women, and children suffering in Central Texas. So that Help Texas banner is right there at the top of the ChrisStigall.com page. That's one way to give. You can make donations to help us rush these emergency relief kits, essentials that are needed, hygiene, tarps, plenty, and you can read about all of it when you go there. Food for the Poor is coordinating. They're on the ground in San Antonio to get these kits rushed right out with your donations and your help. Phone in your gift at 855-330-4673, 855-330-4673. You can text Stigall to 51555, text Stigall to 51555, or again, click on the banner there at ChrisStigall.com. I just can't say thank you enough to this audience. In 1 week, we hit the initial goal that we set. Still much more to be done. If you've been thinking, I've been meaning to do that, take a couple of minutes and do it. This is how, as frustrating as you often may feel things are, the news is, the country is, as saddened or frustrated or helpless as maybe you sometimes feel, this is a way to engage with an organization to really impact and help our fellow Americans in a time of need. All right, ChrisStigall.com, and click on that Help Texas banner. Easy to do. All right, Donald Trump, yesterday, in the Oval Office. He was cutting deals right and left. He scored a big deal with Japan yesterday. Talking about the DNI report and Tulsi. 3029 here, boys, if you would, please.
Director of National Intelligence. Oh, where's Tulsi? She's like hotter than everybody. She's the hottest one in the room right now. Because she found out with certainty. I think we knew it before, in all fairness, Tulsi. But now you have certainty. She has all the documents. She has everything that you need. And she found out that Barack Hussein Obama led a group of people and they cheated in the elections, and they cheated without question. It's not even a question. Would you say there's even a little question there, Tulsi? She says no. And you found things that nobody thought we'd ever find. And very happy and very honored to have you with us. She's right now, by far, Speaker, she's hotter than you right now, Speaker. She's the hottest person in the room right now, Speaker. So, Tulsi, great job. And I know you have a lot more coming. She told me you've seen nothing yet. So I heard those rumors about you, but now I know they're true. So we're very proud of you, Tulsi. They cheated so badly, and ultimately it led to a loss in 2020. And it shouldn't have been a loss. It was a big victory. We won by a lot. We had to do it again. But if I thought we lost, I would never have run again. And this is a far more consequential election than it would have been if we did. That's the only thing I can say in favor of it. But
no, it's like when you think about the 2020 election, you know, I realize we have problems now, and many people are kind of like, look, we've got to solve problems now. Looking backwards doesn't help anything. But this isn't just looking backwards at any old thing. This is looking back at a potential coup, one-party rule, using lies and the weaponization of our government to make sure opposition to them is never heard from again. Do you understand the severity of that? I know you do. I know this audience does, but anybody happening by, process it for a minute. This is Banana Republic stuff. This is stuff you read about them doing in Brazil. We don't do that here. We don't manipulate intelligence against candidates for president to make sure they don't win because our candidate for president sucks so bad. And if the American people actually had a choice and a voice and knew all the information, which of course they did, and Trump went on to win in 2016 anyway, even though they tried to frame him falsely as a Russian agent, but then go to 2020. The only reason that stupid old man won, and Donald Trump knows it, there were a lot of unconstitutional behaviors all across the country in places like Pennsylvania, which I'll not get into. But set that aside for a minute. A huge percentage of voters admitted, had they trusted and believed and known that the Hunter Biden laptop was in fact real, they wouldn't have voted for Joe Biden. What we learned on the Hunter Biden laptop was damning. And that alone, even despite all of the cheating all over the country, if that had been a verified story, as it ended up being a verified story, instead of dismissed as Russian intelligence and Russian manipulation, Donald Trump would have been president. And in some ways, I think I share the sentiments that many people do. Donald Trump not winning in 2020 was actually the worst thing for Democrats, because he came back. He had 4 years to sit on the sidelines and put up a game plan, and he's hit the ground running. So they have used the Russia thing to try to discredit Trump the first time, and then when Trump ran for a second term, they tried to dismiss what was real, the Hunter Biden laptop, as Russia again. And so now it's been disclosed by Tulsi Gabbard that this was always a plan. This was always the plan. Use Russia, even though they knew full well Russia hadn't done anything meaningful to manipulate the election. They knew it. They knew it before Donald Trump hit the Oval. But that didn't stop them from telling that lie over and over and over again, including their partners in legacy media. 30 31. A little montage, if you please.
Russia hacking the election to elect Trump is the end of our democracy. Votes were definitely affected. Russia hacked the election to tilt it to Mr. Trump.
The Russians definitively hacked the election.
Russia did hack the election.
No doubt. The Russians hacked the election.
Yes. Russia hacked the election.
Fact, Russia hacked the election.
President-elect Donald Trump still not sounding convinced that Russia hacked the election.
The president does not want to come to terms with the fact that the Russians hacked the election.
President Trump says he still wonders if the Russians hacked the election.
If you can get him to accept that Russia hacked the election, see if you can get him to accept who won the Civil War.
If he admits it, it casts a shadow on his victory over Hillary Clinton.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Russia hacked the election.
Let's be clear, Russia hacked the election. Definitively, Russia hacked the election, and Russia is doing it again now.
Election-related cyber hacking.
Cyber hacking of U.S. elections. Cyber hacking of the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
Russia was cyber hacking the election.
The CIA, the FBI, NSA.
All of these intelligence organizations.
17 intelligence agencies.
All conclude that Russia hacked the election.
If we find out that Donald Trump just theoretically was colluding with Russia while they were hacking the election, that is completely impeachable.
This dossier alleged a conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russian effort to hack the election.
The director of national intelligence, the head of the National Security Agency, the head of the FBI, all of these intelligence experts saying Russia hacked the intelligence.
You get it. They sold it. Now they got to own it. Trump has been releasing files right and left, but not getting much credit for that. There seems to be obsession over just one. I'll get into that in a little bit with Nancy Mace. But, you know, Trump signed off on releasing the JFK file. He did, and everybody kind of went, Trump also released the MLK file. We're going to get into that in more detail a little later in the show, but here's the headline. Trump administration releases FBI records on MLK Jr. despite his family's opposition. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I do have to ask this question. Why would MLK Jr.'s family now be angry that Donald Trump is unsealing this file? Fast Eddie, you want to take a guess? Why would MLK Jr.'s family be upset that Trump is releasing this? Because Coretta Scott King, back in the 90s, asked the Clinton administration to dig deeper into this, Janet Reno, and they did. But for some reason now, Trump's saying, okay, let's release it all so everybody can look into it and see why would the King family be opposed to that?
Because they think it could be tampered with after all. Like, why would you want Trump be the one release that too?
They think Trump would tamper with it?
They think it's been tampered with up to this point, and why would you want to give Trump the credit of releasing something like that?
They didn't say anything specific. They just said, we caution everyone, when you look into this, consider historical context. Consider this, consider that. What that tells me, I'll just say, that, look, J. Edgar Hoover was a bad guy. And much like the Barack Obama administration that we've been talking about, they weaponized our government against Martin Luther King Jr. I have no doubt about that. I think that's absolutely true, and that has been the King family's intention all along. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind J. Edgar Hoover was a rat bastard, okay? And I've seen some of the stuff that he did to the Kennedys. And here's the thing. Two things can be true at once. And this is what I think has the King family a little concerned, if I'm to be wholly honest with you. I think they're concerned about what J. Edgar Hoover found out about Martin Luther King Jr. in his really disgusting surveillance of the guy. Make sense? So, two things can be true. Ready? This is my analysis. Take it or leave it. I don't care. But this is my guess. I think guys like Hoover and our government at that time were so eager to discredit MLK Jr., they started digging around, listening in on his calls, following him around. And the allegations are, allegedly, MLK Jr. was a bit of a ladies' man. For starters, that's one of them. Some have alleged that he was, for want of a better term, not the guy that was public facing. That there was more to him. He was complex. We all are. We're all sinners. We all fall short of the glory of God. Would you want? It's like the guy at the Coldplay concert. Is it true that if every thought and every action of your everyday was under surveillance and then made public to the world, is it true you'd be pretty embarrassed by something? I think everybody would say yes. There's some kind of behavior or thinking that you do in private that you would not want everyone else to consume. That's true of all of us. And I think the King family is concerned that there was such an attempt by the government to discredit him back then that there would be salacious stuff in this that they would rather their father's legacy not be tarnished with today. That's my hunch. We'll get into it more in just a little bit on the Stigall Show. Well, let's dive right in. There's a lot to talk about with Congresswoman Nancy Mace, the 1st Congressional District Representative of South Carolina. I haven't had the pleasure of interviewing you before. Congresswoman, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Thank you for having me today.
Of course. There's more to talk about than we have time.
Right.
But I think one of the first things that I would love to tackle, only because I know your name has been invoked a few times now on cable news over the last 48 hours or so, which is not uncommon for you, but as it relates to this Epstein story, could I play for you what Mike Johnson said? And guys, if we have this, cut 3014, Speaker Mike Johnson commenting on what you as House members will or won't be doing to address the Epstein story.
Here's what I would say about the Epstein files. There is no daylight between the House Republicans, the House, and the President on maximum transparency. He has said that he wants all the credible files related to Epstein to be released. He's asked the Attorney General to request the grand jury files of the court. All of that is in process right now. My belief is we need the administration to have the space to do what it is doing. And if further congressional action is necessary or appropriate, then we'll look at that. But I don't think we're at that point right now because we agree with the President.
Okay, and so as of yesterday, at the conclusion of my show, the DOJ said that they were going to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell. They were going to reach her in prison, I guess, and bring her out and have her answer questions. Axios yesterday, House grinds to halt as GOP tries to shut down Epstein votes. I know you're one of those that wants to see a vote, I believe, on releasing these files. So I set all that up for the audience to kind of roughly place us where we are today. Could you help me from there?
Right. Well, we are at an impasse, apparently, and I learned this this week. The House passed a non-binding resolution out of the Rules Committee last week as sort of a negotiated deal within the Republican Party to bring more transparency. And then the DOJ has said, based on the president's desire to release files, that they're working on doing that. But in the meantime, there are members that want to see Congress take a vote on this and get those files released. I had hoped that vote would happen this week because we go into August recess after Friday, and then we don't come back to this until after Labor Day. I can tell you, based on the phone calls, the emails, the text messages, the DMs, the social media comments that we've been receiving over the last 2 weeks, is that people are demanding answers, and they don't understand if there were 1,000 underage girls trafficked, why only one accomplice is in jail. So, and I think these are very reasonable things that we need answers, and we're looking for that from the DOJ, and I hope that we can move this swiftly so that people can get the answers that they are desiring, and we can put this also behind us by getting that information and being transparent.
I don't want to linger too much on it because I know we've got a lot, but I did want to just quickly ask, do you think there are things that we just haven't seen, and if so, why the reticence to release it? And President Trump saying, okay, Pam Bondi, ask a judge to unseal the whole thing. Is that satisfactory or not? I guess I'm just trying to understand what we can see and what we can't see, or what we think we might need to see that we haven't.
I don't think we'll know until we see what's left to be reviewed. I mean, a lot of information has been redacted. But from my perspective, there were people that drove the cars and transferred these children. Someone flew the plane, someone opened the door, someone cleaned the room. There were witnesses to all these things and potentially many accomplices, let alone individuals that are also equally guilty of child rape. So, these are all reasonable things. I don't want to see video. I don't want to see kids, but I want all information about victims redacted. But there are still many unanswered questions, which is why we still continue to see to this day people upset about not having transparency right now in July. And I mean, being on the Hill and watching committee, like, we can't have an oversight hearing right now of the full committee because we will be unable to, because there will be people who will put forth amendments and resolutions, and rightfully so, to release more information. I would like to bring Ghislaine Maxwell to the Oversight Committee to have a hearing and have her answer questions. Even if we have to go to the prison where she's being housed right now, there's information and there are many unanswered questions that the public demands, and the public has a right to know.
Yeah. And do you have any sense that President Trump doesn't want that, or why he wouldn't if you do? I guess
no,
not
at all.
I don't understand the conflict.
Yeah, his statements are all about public transparency. And I hope that the DOJ will do what he's asking, do what he requests. I trust him. I trust the president. And I appreciate his comments last week about demanding that the grand jury information also be released. And I hope that the DOJ can do it quickly.
Which brings me to the next, which is what Tulsi Gabbard said as we headed into last weekend. What we now know, I think all of us know well, and that is the Obama administration, Biden after that, which was really just a continuation, and what has been a years-long attempt to thwart and undermine and frame Donald Trump and many of his associates. Where are we with that, in your view?
Well, this is all new information that Tulsi Gabbard released, and people have to go to jail. Like, the problem with the American people today is that we've given them no reason to trust the government. And thank God that Tulsi Gabbard had the cojones to come out there and show this information. But who's going to go to jail? Who are we going to investigate? Who's getting referred for criminal charges? And who's going to be indicted? Who's going to be tried? And who's going to go to jail for this? Because what they have done to Donald Trump, they've tried everything. They indicted him. They threw him in jail. They raided his home. They even shot him. And no one has been held to account for any of these disgraceful and illegal and corrupt behavior, criminal behavior against the president of the United States. And if that means Obama is tried, then Obama is tried. If he was the architect behind this, then he has to answer for it.
Have you seen any hard evidence, in your view, of criminality, in your view, at this hour? Anyone in particular, or generally speaking?
Well, I think you can easily say this is civil or criminal conspiracy. I mean, clearly there was a conspiracy between certain, I think, believe current and former intel agents to bring down Donald Trump. And if this includes all the way up to the White House under President Obama, I mean, that to me right there is criminal conspiracy, very easily proven.
One of the bright spots in this tenure of yours in this session of Congress and with President Trump and DOD, that's Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense. The ranks continue to swell. I just read yesterday, recruitment is just through the roof, Congresswoman Mace. And I know you're on House Armed Services. You've had a lot of successes there. Department of Defense is really humming along.
Oh, yeah. And you have an alpha male leading the DOD, no beta males at all. And so people, I believe, our young people are inspired by that energy, that strength to be the most powerful military force in the world. And Pete Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth, exudes that. And it's inspiring. I hear from young people all the time that are excited and want to go into the military, want to enlist, because they see the new leadership. They see that the military is going to be based on merit, not on how you look, that we are going to be the most lethal fighting force in the world. And he's leading that charge, and he's doing a remarkable job.
I saw you had something like 26 different markups in the House Armed Services Committee. And for people that may not understand exactly what that means on a technicality, could you explain it a little bit? I mean, because you had a lot of successes improving both military affairs and veterans affairs.
Yeah, no, we had 26 amendments that were passed through on the National Defense Authorization Act this year, which is huge, even for a sitting member of this committee. One of the things that we got done, for example, is we included capital punishment for child rape in the UCMJ. We have sexual assault victims amendments that passed through, a lot of our DEI amendments to get rid of DEI and have the DOD focus on merit also passed. We had mental health, family support, veterans care, modernizing military justice, protecting survivors. We have national security amendments in that, and defense modernization in the NDAA. And it was a huge win, not just for South Carolina, but for the country. And we're honored to serve on the House Armed Services Committee and be able to do this for our country.
Nancy Mace represents the 1st District of South Carolina. Could I talk rescissions with you for a minute? We got the $9 billion rescission package passed. Will there be more, do you think? I know you'd like more. Will there be? And where should we start to cut, if so?
Well, we have the opportunity to have multiple rescissions packages, and I hope that the $9 billion that we just passed won't be the last package that we do, that we will have more cuts. We know that DOJ has identified hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of cuts that we need to go through. The problem that we have right now is that most of the cuts need to be made under mandatory spending. So you have two buckets within the federal budget. You have discretionary spending, mandatory spending. The large, vast majority bulk of spending is under mandatory. And we need to reassess moving some of that mandatory spending, if it were me and I were in charge, and putting it into discretionary so that you're not required to spend that money if it's unnecessary to. And then you can start also making cuts. We also have to look at how we handle the wasteful spending that we have right now. We have contracts, and it could be at the Pentagon, it could be at any agency really, where we have so much waste. And we have trained companies that the government contracts with. We have encouraged that kind of waste. We've encouraged, in some cases, I believe, fraud in looking at some of these contracts. And so I've been identifying huge contracts and trying to give them to DOJ and the agencies to say, this is where waste is, this is where fraud is, this is where abuse is, and let's start with the cuts there.
Do you feel, with about 30 seconds, Congresswoman, that coming up, all of you are up for re-election, all 435 of you. Do you think Republicans come back in control in the next session or not? Conventional wisdom is the party in power loses. And that's always a fait accompli. But Democrats have never been this unpopular. So how do you see it right now politically?
Well, Democrats on a political suicide mission. They are under 20% approval right now. And I believe that Republicans are going to keep the majority next year if we keep governing the way that we are and legislating. Donald Trump has made good on every single promise on his campaign trail. He's been the best president in my lifetime on making good on those promises, and the House has followed suit under Mike Johnson's leadership. So I think we're going to have a great year, and I look forward to what the midterms has to offer.
Nancy Mace represents the 1st District of South Carolina. First conversation of ours. I hope it won't be our last. Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. It's Dan. Hey, Dan, I'm glad you called. Good morning. Welcome in, sir.
Good morning. Good to talk with you.
Likewise.
I just wanted to make a comment. In the last half hour, you were talking about releasing files of the MLK record and so forth. And in recent years, I read a book by an author I believe to be credible. He happens to be a black man. That said that MLK was known to have a fetish for orgy-style events in his hotel rooms with white women in particular, and all of it in many of his civil rights, groups. So I can see that as being a reason if the family knows that, and we know how the FBI can obtain.
Sure. I think the running theme is, I think what's sort of interesting about the release of the MLK files, and if there was, unsavory stuff about him, whatever, he's dead and gone. He can't defend himself, and I don't know. But if he was up to no good or doing stuff he didn't want people to know about, okay, I get it. I get the family's objection to it if that's true. But the point is, this dovetails very, very nicely with the modern-day J. Edgar Hoover, which is Barack Obama and his intel agencies. It's the exact same thing. It's the weaponizing of government against political enemies. This country has a storied history of doing it, I'm sorry to say, and they've done it again in the modern era. And this is something we can't lose sight of. And I know, again, I never mean to bore the audience. I get it, Stigall, you're probably saying. I know you are. I know you do. You're smart. You've picked up on why this is important years ago. But there are a lot of people that happen across this show that maybe don't really internalize what's so big about this. Trump understands how big it is. Again, let's go to, give me 3026. He really hammered on this yesterday.
They tried to rig the election. and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about.
Now, depending on who you're listening to, and we just addressed it with Congresswoman Nancy Mace. The show's not running from it. I have no desire to run from anything. But here's the suggestion from most legacy media, Obama, all of his associates, what Donald Trump just said, and here's what legacy media is saying. Number 33 here. This is Ed O'Keefe, CBS News, and you'll see this at NBC. You'll see it at the Washington Post. They're all saying the same thing. Trump saying that, talking about this, is nothing but a distraction.
Seeking to divert attention from the Epstein case, Trump accused former President Barack Obama of treason for how he and his administration investigated allegations of Russian interference in the 2016 elections.
It's time to go after people.
Seeking to divert attention from the Epstein files. I don't know what more Donald Trump can do. He told Pam Bondi to release the thing. Fast Eddie, I'll ask you again. No wrong answer, and I'm not going to be mad at you however you want to answer it. I continue to hear that there are people that are just deeply, profoundly interested in this issue and this issue only, Epstein. And then I hear the left, who've now seized on this and say the only reason Trump is talking about the coup against him is because of Epstein. He wouldn't be talking about it were it not for the Epstein demands. So, okay, where are you? You listen, you hear, you see the incoming. Where are you with it?
I don't think that it's a distraction from the Epstein files. Like I don't share what the left is trying to do. I don't know that though that this is making the splash that it's supposed to be with conservatives, if that makes any sense.
You're talking about what Tulsi Gabbard has released. You don't think it's taking root. It's people aren't paying attention what Tulsi Gabbard has released. You don't think people care about it enough.
That's exactly it. Yes.
Why?
I just don't know that they know. They're focused on the Epstein files, and I don't know if Team Trump thought that maybe this release from Tulsi would take the heat off in some way because it's so big, and I don't know that the right appreciates how big it actually is.
Well, the House committee is now subpoenaing Maxwell, as Nancy Mace said, imprisoned associate of the late disgraced financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. I will say this. I don't know anything about it. I don't know her. I don't know her role. I don't know the detail. I'm not a court case guy, all right? I know some people are like Nancy Grace. Like people just can't get enough of court cases and crime stories. I'm just not that guy. I don't live in crime stories. Having said that, this woman was intimately involved in it. I don't know why she hasn't been peppered with questions all along. I've never understood that. She's just sitting there, and she's still alive. Ask her the questions. Congress says they will. Good. Get to it. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years. But now he has two brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, Chris, I can't begin to express how proud I am, obviously, of having my daughter there. Also, Dr. Geddes is just a wonderful addition to our practice. He is a classmate of my daughter Alexa's at Temple Dental School, and I have known Jared for about 7 years now. Getting to know Jared over the years, it was my wife Debbie and my daughter Emily who kept telling me, you have to hire Jared. You have to hire Jared. He's going to be a superstar. Jared went off to USC, did a 1-year residency after his year at Temple. He came back and he worked for about a year in a practice in New Jersey. And after, again, my wife and daughter beating my brains in, I got the message and I hired Jared, and he's been a great addition to Williamsburg Dental.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. Do you know a generation of children in El Salvador are lost to malnutrition? And the only way to a better future is through a school feeding program. I hope you'll join me in saving lives with food for the poor. Hi, I'm Chris Stigall, and when you click the Feed Their Future banner at my website, chrisstigall.com, your gift of $100 will provide a child in El Salvador with daily school nutrition for an entire year. Just $100 for an entire year. Call 855-330-4673. Make your most generous gift right now, because the nutrition these kids get in school, it's often their only meal of the entire day. Food for the Poor's school nutrition program effectively addresses malnutrition and increases school attendance too. Now, your donation is going to support local farmers who produce nutritional supplements as well, and you're needed, critically needed, to improve children's nutrition in places like El Salvador. Your gift will allow them to focus on learning rather than worrying about their next meal today. You have the power to feed a child for an entire classroom for an entire year. Click the blue banner at chrisstigall.com. 855-330-4673 is the telephone number. Give that gift of $100 to feed these children's future. chrisstigall.com. Click on that blue banner, or 855-330-4673 today. Glad to have you in, folks. Welcome in on the Wednesday edition of the Stigall Show. Middle of the week, looking at Jackson Hole, Wyoming. A beautiful, beautiful site. One I have not seen before. Would love to go. One of these. That's a golf course too. Wow. Look at that hole. That is a beautiful looking tee shot right there. I got to get out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Anybody want to host me? Just let me come flop on the couch, VRBO maybe or something. Anyway, if you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you get to see that. If you're listening in Wyoming or wherever you happen to be on some of our hundreds of radio affiliates all over the country, thank you for listening in this morning. And as always, the 3 times a week Harump Society newsletter. I've got the second edition coming out today on Spygate, Obamagate, Russiagate, whatever gate you want to call it. I call it a coup attempt to seize power in the United States from a duly elected president of the United States and try to keep him from ever winning again by duping you and controlling and manipulating the media on top of it to keep it from getting out and keeping you from learning the truth. I think it's the biggest story that we'll ever live through. I mean, short of a world war, I can't imagine anything bigger than a sitting president trying to keep a duly elected president coming after him from governing or even winning. And that's where we find ourselves. It's a huge, huge story. So I continue to write about it. And if you want to dive a little deeper, but also keep, a handle on it without going into the weeds, the Harump Society is the place to go. Head over to chrisstigall.com and get signed up today. I went through yesterday why it is, and the why is always the most important thing. The why. I know people get bored maybe sometimes with storytelling and lists. They don't like looking back. They say, oh, that was then. Let's think forward. Let's move forward. That was 2016. Why are we talking about that? Trump won. That's the ultimate justice. Let's just move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. For the let's move on crowd, I always like to stop and say, when you say that, you allow people the very worst to amass power for themselves and weaponize it against you and me. We can't forget that bad people who achieve power through cheating and through lying, when they do that, that's not where they stop. They don't just want to acquire the power by cheating and lying. Once they've acquired the power through cheating and lying, that's when they go to work on you. And that's why this should matter to every American. Not just they screwed Donald Trump and his campaign associates and his cabinet. Not just that they tried to derail a presidency. It's not just that, even though that's huge and critically important because it's sidelining the voices of 77 million Americans who voted for the guy. But even setting that aside, you say that's old news and I don't want to talk about it. How can anyone, how can any of us ever forget the way we've been treated by those who would lie and cheat to amass power? Look at this headline from the Federalist. Biden Justice Department sought federal hook to go after parents as domestic terrorists. The Department of Justice under former President Joe Biden actively sought a federal hook to justify sending federal law enforcement after parents they labeled domestic terrorists. Documents obtained by America First Legal show that prior to the infamous October 4th, 2021 domestic terrorist memo that the bowling alley waitress, Merrick Garland, released, staff looking for any possible way to go after parents concerned with the COVID madness, critical race theory, transgender policies. We're aware the challenge here is finding a federal hook, but White House has been in touch about whether we can assist in some form or fashion, wrote Kevin Chambers, then an Associate Deputy Attorney General, in an October 1st email trying to manufacture a way to respond to a teed-up letter sent by National School Board Association. Career staff at the time were even concerned, saying that there was no authority or legal basis for going after parents for speaking out at school board meetings, particularly since there was the First Amendment protecting them. So do you hear this? What's the point? The National School Board Association wrote the Biden White House and said, hey, you guys are really getting overly aggressive with parents. Even we are a little uncomfortable with this. And so the White House, in a document, in an email, sent an email to the Justice Department saying, we are trying to find a hook. We're aware of all of these parents showing up at school board meetings and mouthing off about masks and shot mandates and opening the schools again. We're aware of parents showing up at these school board meetings and interrupting our DEI policies and our transgender policies. We're aware. And so we're trying to find a hook that you guys can use. This is from Biden's White House, advising Merrick Garland and the DOJ. We're trying to create some rationale for you to crack down on these uppity parents who dare come speak out at school board meetings. These people acquired power, in my view, illegally to begin with. And then once they got there, they did this crap. They went after Catholics, they went after pro-life folks, they went after parents at school board meetings, they went after you if you didn't want to take a shot and tried to take your job from you. I cannot stress how loathsome and maniacal these people are. And they did it by lying. And they did it with the help of the American mainstream legacy media, covering up, lying, and silencing your voices and mine and anyone who challenged them. You know, Matt Taibbi, one of the guys over at, now he's exploded on Substack. Matt Taibbi was talking to Megyn Kelly. He says this conspiracy case is real. And he has a source that tells him Biden spied on the Trump campaign in 2024 and that more is to come there. That the spying didn't end with Obama at Obama's direction. It continued through the Husk's fake presidency. I believe it. And I can't wait to see what Taibbi has to produce and what Tulsi's produced. There's plenty more. Remember, Tulsi is referring criminal activity to Pam Bondi and the DOJ. Criminal activity. And Trump, I say again, he's taking the opportunity to really pound this, that from Obama on down, there was criminal activity. I believe that's true. But even if you don't, understand what Democrats want to do with the power they acquire, whether you have convinced yourself it's legitimate or whether you're like me and you know for a fact it's not legitimately acquired power. They want to weaponize that power against you once they seize it, and they want to figure out how to stay in that power in perpetuity to take you down a peg. Silence you, shut you up, re-engineer everything from the economy to the social constructs of this country. Democrats' goal is to achieve and amass that power to shut 77 million people's voices, attitudes, prayer lives, speech, Second Amendment rights. Pick your Bill of Rights item. The left's goal is to amass as much power as possible to shut your voice and your rights down. That is the biggest objective of all. It's not just Trump's not going to be with us forever. Yes, at some point, Trump will leave. In 3.5 years, Donald Trump will be in the history books. But long after, this country will be living with the Barack Obama administration and the seeds he planted, along with Mrs. Clinton, along with Biden. to subvert, using the institutions of government, subvert the elections process, to subvert the voices of tens of millions of Americans who actually want to rise up and say, I object to the way government is being weaponized and run right now. I want a new guy to run it. I want to change. And Barack Obama tried to implement the most deceptive, weaponized practices to keep your voice from being heard and your candidate of choice from the seat of power to correct this stuff. It is so big. It is so important. If this is allowed to fester and it is not rooted out and it is not punished, it will happen again. All you have to do is look at the way they talk. Beto O'Rourke said it. I played it earlier this week. He said, we've just got to do whatever we got to do to get power back. We got to get the power back. It doesn't matter whether what we believe or our policy prescriptions for the country work, or if the American voter actually supports our agenda and wants it. It doesn't matter. We got to get our power back. That way we can shut all of this down our way through power and just sheer authority. It makes me, I tell you, my blood just boils. I seethe when I think about the way this government has been weaponized against you and me in the last 20 years. It has targeted conservatives. It hates your voice. It hates your values. It hates your Christian faith. These leftists in power, running our institutions, hate parents who think their kids ought to just be given an education and not an indoctrination into transgenderism or LGBTQ literature. Democrats in the seat of power hate you, and they will weaponize it against you when they get there, and they will by any means necessary get there. And that's what Tulsi Gabbard's case to Pam Bondi and DOJ is all about. More in a minute. Hey, Ed, curious about something. Do you think, since he seems to be going on all these shows, do you think it possible we can book Hunter Biden on this show?
I'll try. I will absolutely try. I don't know that. I don't know, though. Do we have the technical capability to keep up with a Hunter Biden booking? Can we bleep in real time if we went live, or would that have to be something we tape after the show? We'd have to tape it after the show, but you know what? I think I have some. I think I have an idea for that. We can do it.
Okay,
we can get Hunter.
All right.
Yeah.
More Hunter Biden on something called the At Our Table podcast. I tell you what, I will give him credit. Not only is he just freewheeling and saying whatever he pleases, he's giving a lot of attention to podcasts I've never heard of in my life. Everybody's got a podcast now. You got a podcast, and you got all right, the At Our Table podcast. After his expletive-filled tirade on the other guy's website, the guy with the mustache, he called Live at 5 or Channel 5 or whatever the hell that was. Okay, anyway, here's Hunter Biden yet again, 3032. Take a listen.
And you would have the Speaker Emeritus that would say, well, you know, I'm going to leave it up to, but I don't know. And they had already made a decision. They had clearly made a decision. And when I say they, I mean the Speaker. And, you know, I heard Alexander Pelosi say something, call my like, put your big girl pants on to my mom or something. And I kind of feel like saying, who the do you think you are? I would never speak about your mom that way.
Yeah.
I would never speak about your father that way. I would never insult your parents that way.
I don't have much to say about him, to be perfectly honest with you. He's not really of interest to me. I actually think he's sort of a sad case. But it is interesting that he has now spurred a lot of inside-the-tent shooting on the Democrat side for a change, which is always nice to exploit. 3039, the boys over at the Pod Save America podcast. That's a pretty big one. These are the fellas that used to be the aides to Barack Obama that Hunter attacked the other day for being leeches, just cashing the checks on Obama's name. They finally fired back yesterday. Here we go.
At long last, the Democratic establishment decided to listen to the voters. And it was very hard to get the establishment to do that, but ultimately they did that. And everybody kind of collectively ultimately were able to get Joe Biden to step aside and do the right thing for the country. Now, we don't live in the world where Joe Biden ran that race all the way to the end. But one thing we know is that Hunter Biden, throughout Joe Biden's presidency, was a terrible liability for him. And put the addiction aside, it is because he was on Burisma, because he became an artist, because he was part of a kind of like sleazy Washington that, as Tommy said, people hated. You were a liability. You should be ashamed of the ways in which you made your father's political life worse. And like the idea that we're going to listen to you now, like give me a f***ing break. It's ridiculous.
I'm just, for those of you who aren't watching, I'm just going to sip my coffee and enjoy this moment. It's just fun. It's not rooted in anything particularly meaningful. It's just fun to watch these people now come to grips with their duplicity and their train wrecks that they've been trying to prop up as legitimate. It's all coming out in the wash now. It's hard to keep this facade up long term. Quick list of wins I wanted to tick off this morning. As promised, ready? The White House has proposed rescissions packages, plenty of rescissions to come, and they're targeting the Department of Education first. I love it. Going to talk more about that in just a minute. Trump just secured a historic $550 billion trade deal with Japan yesterday. There's never been anything like it, he says. AstraZeneca just announced they're going to invest $50 billion in the United States. And incidentally, the markets are taking off. The futures markets are just skyrocketing this morning. So if you've got any kind of 401k or investment right now, that's really something. Donald Trump has announced a $36 million settlement in a lawsuit with CBS. So more money being thrown in the Trump presidential library built by media liars. I just love that. Coca-Cola. I guess they hadn't officially committed to replacing the syrup with the cane sugar, but Trump sort of muscled them publicly, and now they've committed to doing the cane sugar thing. And the U.S. Olympic Committee is banning trans women from competing in women's sports. Winning, winning, winning. Every now and again, I like to check in over there at The Lion, readlion.com, one of our go-to websites for great news, unvarnished, truthful news, real news, and frankly, a lot of stuff that you don't get anywhere else. It's not just kind of your generic run-of-the-mill headlines. It's readlion.com, and the guy who runs it is a great friend and associate of mine. The managing editor for The Lion, readlion.com, is Josh Mann. And Josh, I welcome you back to the show. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Of course. I was really excited yesterday to hear, and I know you've written about this at The Lion, more rescissions to come. A reduction in the spending and the size of the federal government, I think most everyone can agree, needs to happen. And so Donald Trump says, we're going to do it, and my next targeted rescissions are coming to the Department of Education. What do you know about it?
Well, we don't know much more than that. So right now there was a White House aide did kind of let the cat out of the bag and said that the Education Department is part of the next target. But we don't really know how much it's going to be. We do know the department just released some funds for after-school programs that some states were waiting for, and to the effect of about $1.3 billion. There's about another $7 billion that could be spent but hasn't been yet on things like teacher training, migrant student training, and some preschool stuff that some have some concerns actually indoctrinate kids. So I wonder if it's some of that money that they're going to try to claw back before it gets spent.
By the way, The Lion, I should mention, had a correspondent, Maggie Little, in the Oval yesterday during the dignitary visit, right?
That's right. Yeah, it was a great opportunity once again. I mean, I just have to say, you know, this administration promised a new media seat, and they've delivered on that promise. And, you know, The Lion has been in the White House a couple of different times recently, twice in the Oval Office. The Philippine president, Ferdinand Marcos, was there. Trump was announcing a trade deal with the Philippines. He also announced trade deals with Indonesia and Japan, and of course took a big victory lap pretty much all day long at a couple different events that The Lion was invited to just to participate as press. But I think, you know, it's remarkable to look at the administration's accomplishments in 6 months, But one of the things that really stood out was a question. He was with the Philippine president, and as is common, the press asks all sorts of questions. Well, one of them had to do, of course, with the Russia collusion hoax, or what Trump calls the Russia collusion hoax. And he accused Barack Obama of being basically the leader of a gang that's guilty of treason. And so a lot of news yesterday to report from the White House, and the Lion's really privileged to be a part of it.
Josh Mann, managing editor at The Lion. ReadLion.com is the site for all of this news and much, much more. Because you're a journalist, and telling the truth and just writing a straight-ahead story has been your life's work. I know you will, and I know you to be an honest broker and an honest guy who just wants to get the story right. It's not just rooted in partisanship for you. And so I ask you, this is sort of a perspective question. When Donald Trump says treason, I mean, that's a huge word. It's a big word. Tulsi Gabbard used the word too. And, people have pointed out that the punishment for treason can be death in this country. I've heard other people, fellow conservatives, say, let's stop focusing so much on Obama. There's so much more to talk about besides Obama, other people involved in it. But I guess my question for you is, should this be a story? Because most other media, legacy media, is saying Trump's just trying to distract, and he's trying to distract from the Epstein thing, which is another question I have. I'll just throw that on top while we're at it. There's a lot we don't know about the Epstein thing, but do you think Trump is engaged in a rope-a-dope here with media and voters trying to deflect and distract? I mean, or are these both very serious things, and can we walk and chew gum at the same time, Josh?
Well, I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I don't know how strategic Trump is being in terms of distracting the media. My observation is that he talks a lot, maybe too much, according to some within the administration. He loves to talk to the press. Both times we've been at the White House as a publication, he has called unexpected events. We've unexpectedly been invited to another presser or something like that, or there's a gaggle outside with the press secretary who wasn't expected to come. This administration loves to talk, and he's so off the cuff. He answers so many questions, very unscripted. It's kind of his MO. And so I think when he says things, when he drops this word treason, I don't think it's just a distraction. I think he really means it and feels it. Although I think we've learned that sometimes Trump exaggerates a little bit, or the rhetoric's a little bit high, and sometimes he'll come back later and say, we need to take a look at it. We need to investigate. But to your question, is this a story? I think it has to be a story. I mean, it needs to be investigated. We need to hear both sides out, but you could have an outgoing president basically making things up, or in intelligence agencies that are sort of trying to sabotage an elected president's term. That's very serious, and this gets to the heart of democracy, is the will of the people being done. And so I think it has to be taken very seriously.
Josh Mann, again with us at ReadLion.com. You also wrote a story about the MAHA movement, which has been a fascinating sort of subset of this accomplished 6 months, in my words, but I think this has been a really remarkable administration. In 6 months, they've done a lot. And this MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, and RFK Jr. over at HHS, I don't know that it's getting the attention it deserves, but I will say, and I've remarked about this before, women in particular, who I think are mothers, a lot of young mothers. I have noticed when you talk about the Trump agenda, it's this one. Maybe other than the Epstein thing. The Epstein thing's the other. But this MAHA thing really gets women, particularly young mothers, very animated. And I understand why, but have you noticed that?
Yeah, it is flying under the radar. You're right. But when you're looking at what the Trump administration is touting as its accomplishments in the first 6 months, it's a lot of big things like the border, it's national security, the economy, but kind of flying under the radar is this Make America Healthy Again agenda. And, RFK is the main person behind it, who's pushed it. And just a couple of ways that he's done it. The bully pulpit, he's put a lot of pressure on companies, pharmaceuticals. He's also used regulatory powers that he has. And he's capitalizing on America's distrust of the government, especially following COVID. And so, but the president's helped him out. He created the MAHA Commission on Chronic Childhood Diseases in February. They've already come out with a preliminary report that identifies problems in childhood diet, sedentary lifestyles. They're concerned about the numbers of medications that children are on, for example. They're taking a look at baby formula, which affects, the development of some of our youngest people in this country. And then, of course, we've heard a lot about trying to get potentially harmful ingredients out of foods. And so we actually have companies voluntarily saying, oh, you don't have to ban that, or before you ban it, we'll actually go ahead and take it out. So they're playing ball, and not a single law has had to be passed.
Well, in fact, I read just this morning, Coca-Cola didn't really officially announce they were going to do away with the high fructose corn syrup to sweeten their soda, but Trump just sort of said they were going to, and then Coca-Cola came out and decided, I guess, to kind of announce, okay, yeah, we're going to launch a cane sugar soda this fall, since the president sort of got out in front of us on it. I mean, it's interesting that Trump keeps nudging, to your point, and companies are sort of dragged there, which speaks to something. I don't know. It's like this is not a question that probably has an answer, but is it just that it's cheaper? I mean, why have we been putting this crap in our food, Josh? Is it just cheaper, and now we've wised up and said we probably shouldn't be ingesting this stuff, and companies like, all right, we'll put whole ingredients in it instead of the garbage we've been pumping in it.
Yeah, I think they're probably saving some money. Sometimes I think it's as simple as it might look a little better. Like, boy, we'd really like the red Fruity Pebbles. We want them to be very red, and so we're going to put this dye in it, and it's probably okay. And so I think we need to take a look at a lot of this stuff, but generally probably more natural is better. I think there's a lot of consensus around it. Americans don't really disagree too much about these things.
Readlion.com is the website. Josh Mann, managing editor there, he runs the whole deal. It's great journalism every single day, and now invited to the White House with regularity as well. So, Josh, it's appointment reading for me every day. Good work there, and thanks for checking in with us.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Our telephone number is 855-STIGAL if you want to get in here today. The Hunter Biden podcast is eliciting some responses on Capitol Hill and from the Trump administration. Tom Homan, 3037. Any excuse I have to play Tom Homan, it makes me laugh anyway. Talking about Hunter Biden, when these two worlds collide, it's tremendous. Take a listen.
Who do you think washes your dishes?
Well, I do my own dishes, Tom. But this idea that the fruit's going to rot in the orchards, nobody's ever going to have a lawn mowed again if we actually enforce our immigration laws.
Well, I don't really care what the former first drug addict thinks. I just thank God every morning I wake up, we got President Trump in the Oval Office. And because of President Trump, in 7 weeks, we got the most secure border in this nation's history. And now we're arresting public safety threats and national security threats every day across this country.
Yeah. And John Kennedy, I don't have time to play the clip, but Senator Kennedy was also on the Senate floor talking about the concerns of pumping him so full of Ambien. Yeah, that's what Hunter Biden said, that Joe Biden's performance at that early debate in June of last year, it was so bad because he'd been traveling and they pumped him full of Ambien. And Kennedy said, well, he got home on a Sunday. The debate was on a Thursday. How much Ambien are they giving him anyway? Hey, listen, I got a note today from somebody who said, where's the link? Where's the link? It's easy to find. If you go to chrisstigall.com, right at the top of the page is the Help Texas link. You see it plain as day. Do you have $50 to give our help with food for the poor? They have orchestrated these emergency relief kits for our flooded out friends in Texas. You can go to chrisstigall.com and click on that Help Texas banner right there at the top of my page. Susan, thanks for calling. Thanks for waiting. Good morning.
Good morning to you. I want to take up the issue of the soft coup. I don't think it's a soft coup. I think it may have started that way. But by the time we get to the assassination attempt, it has turned into a much bigger thing than a soft coup, because that was facilitated through the intelligence agencies all the way to the Secret Service, and they allowed that to happen. So we need to stop and think about it. They had already started bringing their army across the border, 20 million people, to ruin this country, to steal from all the citizens, to garner everything they can to misdirect and realign their work so they can get back in power. We need to think about this. This story needs to never be let go. You need to harp about it every bloody day because somebody's got to say something. And I don't care what people say about Brennan and Clapper and the rest of that trash. Somebody had to direct and organize them, and we all know that was Obama. This needs to go straight to him and filter all the way down, and every one of them need to be put in prison because until we stop these people, we cannot stop this from happening again. And their tentacles are everywhere. They're down to the secretaries in the Congress and in these things. Look at AID, USAID. I mean, that was just another one of their many things. And Hillary's and them little gift shop of their $740 million worth of their donation center. I mean, it's insanity, but it's gone from soft all the way to hard. And I sure hope that everybody's paying attention to poor old Donald Trump now. And thank God we've got him. That's what I say.
Susan, may I ask you, beautifully laid out all of it, do you have confidence now that Tulsi Gabbard has issued criminal referrals to Pam Bondi at DOJ? Where are you with Pam Bondi? How do you feel she's proceeding? Do you think she will proceed? Do you have confidence there? Donald Trump says he has confidence in her. Do you?
Yes, I think I do, although I am aware that she has to be completely overwhelmed. I'm not sure the best word is drowning, because look at the insane amount of stuff that has to hit her office and hit her desk, and they can't tweak their nose, and neither can she, and make all this stuff appear in the format required to pursue. But I will say this, what Tulsi Gabbard and Pamela Bondi and others are doing and have done, if they do nothing else, they start to expose the American public to the insidious nature of this horror that's been going on a long time, because these creeps have been doing this for 60 years, since I was in high school, and I'm 76 years old, trying to diminish the intellectual capacity of the general public of the United States. And by God, they've come damn close, haven't they? I mean,
they sure have, Susan. Listen, thank you. I hear the passion in your voice. In fact, people have been sending me notes and posting on X. You're not, hit it harder. Hit it harder. I get it. You're pissed. I am too. And I'm just, I am trying as best I can to make a cogent argument and a cogent case, not always an emotional one, that yes, as Susan laid out, these people are, I believe they are dangerous, and they have proven and shown that they are willing to weaponize government against you and me if they're able to achieve power. And Donald Trump has been the single greatest threat to their coalescing of power that they've ever seen. They assumed that the Republican Party would be Jeb ! And his brother before that. They assumed the Republican Party was going to be your Nikki Haley's and kind of your establishmentarians. Trump just broke all that. He freaked them out. They didn't have a game plan to stop it. And they've been trying, I think, for the better part of now 10 years to stop it without much effect. And Trump's blowing the whistle on them. So, yes, we will stay on it here. That's a promise. Thanks, Susan. We'll see you tomorrow on The Stigall Show. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.